right around that time, the timing just kind of worked out perfectly that they approached me, the previous owners of Jet, and kind of said, our lease is up, we're kind of going to move on from this, and we have a couple people interested in buying the shop, but we wanted to reach out to you because we think that you would be the most obvious fit for it, and we know that they specifically said we know you're really young, so we almost feel like maybe we shouldn't be asking you because I don't know, but
well, again,
because it's kind of their, it was their name too, they didn't want to just let it fall apart or anything, but they said you've always helped us out and stuff, because I had definitely learned a lot from them. They had me do a lot of managerial type of things, so I felt confident enough that I could handle it, and kind of just decided there was actually a month of time that I had to decide and figure it out, and I kind of sat down and thought about the benefits of that versus continuing what I'm doing now, and I just kind of said I think I would be a lot happier.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Bass with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Triumph Every Day, where we discuss the journeys that shape the lives of our guests and how it brought them to where they are today. Welcome, Courtney Howard. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing very well.
Good.
Courtney is an unknown sponsor of Triumph Every Day podcast. Pretty much every time we have a podcast, there's probably a couple of these cups sitting around. It's like 90% of our garbage is old coffee cups. Courtney owns Jet Coffee down in Florence, Kentucky, right off 42.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so we've been getting coffee there for quite some time, and I thought it was a pretty cool story and how everything came to be for her, and we wanted to kind of share it. So here she is today.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So Courtney, just give everyone a little rundown where you're from, where you come from, where you started, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Well, I've always lived in Northern Kentucky my whole life. I went to Walton Verona High School.
Yeah.
Always kind of lived in the Union area, but that's where I went to high school, and went there kindergarten through graduation. So I loved it. And then right after that, I enrolled in the University of Cincinnati in the design program there, and I was actually only there for a couple of months. I kind of had that idea that that's what I wanted to do, and then once I started doing it, I realized, I think like a lot of other people, that maybe that wasn't my
So you
ideal career choice.
Were you in DAAP then?
Yeah, so it was DAAP.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's that's pretty tough program to get into.
Yeah, it was, and that was a lot of the conflict of whether I should go or not, because I was thankful for having gotten into it. I heard a lot of other student stories who this was maybe their third year in college, and they've been trying to get into it and couldn't.
So you're just that talented.
Well, it's really not talent based to get into that. It's more so, they just look at everything, but a lot of it has to do with your grades, of course, and the ACT and all that kind of stuff. And high school, to be honest, wasn't difficult for me. I liked school, and I think a lot of that had to do with my teachers. I had really, really good teachers, and the school's smaller, so I felt like it was, I don't know, it worked out for me, and I just cared a lot about it because I really wanted to get into a good college.
Yeah.
And I did, and it didn't work out, but
what the fact that they look a lot at your SATs and ACTs
mm-hmm.
is actually pretty surprising to me, because it seems like being in the arts, that a lot of those standardized tests don't equate well to the way a lot of very artistic people think.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's just because of how, the amount of competition to get into it, so they kind of have to start narrowing it down by looking at little things like that. I'm sure a lot of stuff goes into it that they don't tell you about.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't remember ever presenting any artwork or anything that I did. So yeah, I think it was more so you did, the Common App and all of that, and other than that, I don't really think I did anything.
And was it for design? Because it's a wide spectrum.
Yeah, so I actually went for fashion design, but I had always kind of wanted to be like a graphic designer. So the first year is kind of just like a foundations year in everyone, regardless of what your plan is to go into, what area of design, you're all doing the same stuff. So then like a year later, you get to kind of go into whatever particular field you're interested in. So we were just basically taking like basic art and drawing classes, art history and that kind of stuff. So, and it was difficult, yeah, but that didn't have to do with why I left. You know, that wasn't a problem. It was more so just I saw the passion that everyone else had that just like loved being there in DAAP, and I just couldn't wait to go home every day. And I just think that I realized it was more of like a hobby for me than a career path.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can definitely see that. What were kind of, because again, I feel like a lot of people who are in DAAP, and this isn't speaking badly about people who get in the program. My cousin is very, very talented, and went through the DAAP program. But I feel like a lot of those people that is their identity.
Very much so, yeah. Spending like late hours in the studio and stuff, and I think a big part of it too was that I didn't live on campus, and that mostly had to do with money. So I like I said, tried super hard in high school. I think I was like third in my graduating class or something, and I did that because I wanted to get money for college. You know, I don't come from like a super wealthy family, just really average, and I didn't get anything at all. I didn't get any scholarships or any grants or anything. Wow. So it was very upsetting, I think. And because of that, I didn't end up going to live on campus, just kind of to save money. And it wasn't that far of a drive. But I think with DAAP, you kind of have to basically live your life there. And yeah, so that might have been part of it. But either way, I don't know if that was the right major for me to go into, because I was considering all kinds of other things. I thought maybe I wanted to go into like the medical field at one point, business, you know, and then I ended up actually, after I left there, getting kind of interested in real estate.
It's
just kind of all over the place.
But not really. to your point though, like you can call it there's an art to being an entrepreneur and having different interests in different aspects, right? Like I think, you know, one of the things you find out pretty early and often, especially owning your own business, is that you end up being a jack of all trades. You have to be able to do a little bit of everything, and that sounds kind of like who you are.
It's funny that it ended up that way, because I do use, you know, I design our whole menu, I design all the stuff that we do, everything. So I do get to use that, so it's cool. I mean, I'm not a master of it at all. I definitely am not a graphic designer, and I'm very limited in that, but I've been able to get by. So
yeah, that's and so maybe you move out of DAAP, and then where do you go from there?
I took a little bit of a break, maybe a few months, 3 or 4 months, just trying to figure it out, kind of doing some research and maybe what I wanted to do next, because I didn't just want to be out of school and not do anything, you know. So I ended up enrolling in like a real estate course in order to get my real estate license. So that took me about 6 months, and that was all online, like just kind of self-teaching through a textbook and stuff. And then got my real estate license. So I was 19. I had just turned 19. And
excuse me, what? So your real estate license at 19. Yeah, that's impressive on its own. I mean, I guess just prospectively, like, I couldn't even tell you what I was thinking of doing at 19. You know, so I think already it's very impressive. Does that like come from like your family? Is your family this way? That they're very like self-driven and like, I want to do something for myself?
So it's kind of both. So my grandparents, they are really like they're very, very important part of my life, and they're very hard workers. They're in like their early 60s. They've just been hard workers all their life, and now they own a little apartment building. But other than that, you know, they still work their full-time jobs, and they just are super responsible, super good with their money, and just they've kind of instilled like hard work. You know, you work hard now and then it'll pay off later type of thing. But my parents, they had me young, and they both kind of are working jobs now that they don't like, and I wouldn't say they're the happiest people, and I don't, you know, want that to sound negative or anything, but I think all parents' goal is for their child to you know,
Yeah, and
do better than
there's
them.
nothing wrong with
Yeah. They do what they have to do.
Put it this way, the majority of the people in the country are working jobs that they don't want to do.
Exactly.
But they have, you know.
And I worked lots of jobs. I mean, I've started working when I was 14, so for my age, I've tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think bringing up age real quick, just when you were going through that DAAP experience, it's like you're 18 years old to have that awareness to be like, this isn't a passion of mine, and this is a lot of money.
And you probably had a lot of people going, "You're crazy. You're going to leave this?"
Well, what was scary was I didn't tell anyone at all, and I just unenrolled myself. I didn't tell my parents, like no one, because I was so scared of disappointing someone, especially my dad, just because he really wanted me to go and do the whole 4-year college thing because that's what he missed out on. So
I think you see that a lot with parents, you know, even at a very young age, like, you know, my son or daughter is a soccer player, and you know, it's really, they don't even like it. It's just, you know, they're forcing them to do this different thing. So good for you with, you know, making that decision and sticking by it, and that's awesome.
It was hard, but I wanted to get out of it earlier than later. You know, why put more money and time into it if I'm not sure?
The majority of, you know, obviously we're a little older than you, but like the majority of the knock on our generations are, you know, we're tied to all this college debt. You know, and me and Jared both have some, and it's one of those things, like, clearly if we weren't pursuing something we were passionate about, I don't know if either one of us would have just up and left.
Right. You know, and if there was something, if I knew, like, oh, I want to be a doctor or a teacher or something, then I would have just stayed. Sure. It really wasn't, because like I said, I liked school, so I expected for college to be, like, the best for me. But I think in high school, they really, really make you think that that's the path you're supposed to take. And then I kind of realized maybe, you know, that's not for everybody.
You're a little bit ahead of the curve. I mean, again, what you're finding now is you see a lot more people going into, there's a huge trade gap. There is, you know, for skilled workers that may not necessarily require a college degree. It's a different path. And to your kind of story, mine was a little bit the same thing. I went through a program where I was a graphic designer for 5 years, and, you know, leaving that role to eventually end up here was very scary, but also very hard on, I think, my parents, because they're like, well, this is what you were going to do, and why would you go through that? You know, and at the time I didn't know that sitting inside of at a desk for that long, you know, day in, day out was not for me. You know, you think that's what's for you. Seems exciting, but it's not where I wanted to end up, for sure.
Right.
So, so after you get a real estate license, so you slinging houses at 19 or what?
So I had so first it takes a while to get started up. You get your license, you kind of find like a agency. So I picked, you know, or a brokerage. I picked one of those, and they kind of have their own training classes that you go through that take, you know, a month or two. And you really don't, honestly, like, the schooling that you do to get your license isn't enough information for you to, like, go off and start selling houses now. So I still had a lot of learning to do. So it took me a while to really make anything happen. It was probably 6 months maybe before I actually got, like, a client that kept working with me. I actually had a lot of people that I started out with, and one house that I had listed, and things just kept falling through. And it was really discouraging, I think, especially for that happening, like, right away. And I found out in real estate that seems to happen a lot. You know, you're working with a couple of people, and then you just never hear from them again. And that kept happening to me. And, you know, you don't get paid until, like, the job's said and done, like, they're moved in. So I did have one successful one. So I sold one house when I was 19, so that was cool. And then I had the house that I had listed, basically, they decided to stay. So it was it wasn't really anything that I was doing wrong, but all of these outside circumstances kept causing issues. And I know it's tough. I kind of realized that I think it's one of those jobs that you have to be, like, all in on for a long time in order to, like, build up your clientele. And I also learned that it's a lot about who you know. Yeah. And so I didn't know anyone.
You're starting out at 19, like, you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and going into it with thinking, like, not that it's going to be easy by any means, but
it was, like, just
you
different.
Said, there's no one preparing you that, like, oh, the inspection may fall through. Oh, they may get cold feet. Oh.
Yeah, they don't tell you about all the bad parts.
Well,
exactly.
And you're 19, so all your friends are in college. Yeah, it's not like you got
a bunch of 19-year-old friends that are buying houses from you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so. And I kind of thought, maybe this is something I could pick back up when I'm in like my late 20s or something, and my friends actually are buying houses and stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, the main reason I would have stuck with it, but honestly, it was not. I just don't think it was a good fit for my personality.
Yeah.
I definitely realized that you need to be a little more outgoing than I am, and I'm not. I'm not completely an introvert, but I don't have a super duper bubbly personality, and
I look at realtors as
over the top,
just
over the top salesmen, and I'm not.
Look at this face.
Yeah, I can sell. I do it now, but it was just.
What's one of the words that they always use, like on descriptions for like houses, like realtors, like it's like fixer upper, you know what I mean, like something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like
and then you get in, there's like the floor's missing, like it's a fixer upper. I'm like, dude, there's a hole in the ceiling.
Yeah.
There's something. I saw like there was a study or whatnot. It was like 9 out of 10 houses like have this word in the description. It was like charming or something like that.
Charming, yeah.
Like on a quiet street, or it's like how they fix those listings up.
It's funny.
I think that just me being young in general wasn't. I feel like people didn't take me seriously too, because I looked, and I think I probably even looked younger than I actually was, so that didn't help.
Yeah, it's valid too.
Yeah, it's the biggest purchase you might ever make, and why would you trust, a little girl?
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
Maybe just wrong timing, right?
Yeah.
So you're 19 then. How long do you do that for?
I think like about a year and a half. Okay. I kind of really gave it a go and tried multiple things, and I kind of told myself that that's about how long I would give it before I tried something else, and it was mostly out of a need of needing to make money, so I wanted to just get like a full-time job work, save up some money, and then kind of figure it out from there. So that's what I did.
So where'd you go after you're done trying to sell houses?
I started working at a call center.
Okay.
So it was,
and like real quick, I think people see that like when you're in that path. And again, you got friends that are going to college, and everyone's like, "What the hell is Courtney doing? Like, she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, oh, she's going to work at a call center." But like in your mind, and again, a lot of entrepreneurs' mind, you're already in your mind, you're past that call center already, and people don't see that like.
Exactly. I was the youngest one who worked there.
Yeah.
So it was really just like a in-between job, and I am not a techie person, like I'm really not into all of that, and it was specifically for tech support for the company Nestle.
Oh wow.
So any like Nestle employee would call there for help with resetting their password or just whatever it was.
There's chocolate everywhere.
And it was a fine job. It wasn't a bad job. I actually worked third shift. I worked 11-hour shifts third shift because that was the slowest time of the day, and I just didn't like it. I liked the part about the job that I liked was the downtime.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of downtime, and I actually used that time. I was sitting in front of a computer, kind of alone in a little cubicle, and I used that time to research what I was doing next. I was trying to find something to go to school for, or I just really didn't know, so I was trying to figure it out.
Well, again, there's a benefit to not having a set plan in place. You literally, they say the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
It's again hard to see when you're that young, and even hard to see when people are set in their ways. So to be able to again, this is temporary. This is not a long-term plan. How am I going to get myself out of this?
Yeah, right? And it was good money for my age, so I was happy. I mean, it allowed me to be able to, not have to live with my parents or anything. So
I remember coming home in the winter for winter break and driving 45 minutes to go work at my uncle's pharmacy as a pharmacy tech, and it was but it was unbelievable money for being 19, and okay, I'll definitely do this. It's mindless counting pills, that kind of thing.
I could deal with it for the time.
Exactly. So after that, what do you find to do then?
So I looked at a couple of things. So I had been there for a year and maybe 2 months at this point, and I was actively looking for something to do in school. I started looking for online colleges. Maybe I could because I really wasn't sure. I thought maybe I would just do some kind of general business degree, because
just to have one.
You want to be doing something. I just wanted to be doing something and kind of trying to move forward and better myself. And so from that, I kind of got interested in, like, I kind of thought more about like what I actually like to do versus maybe the money aspect of it, which I was originally kind of thinking. And I thought maybe I would like to do, like, I don't know, be an esthetician or like kind of something in that, because that's just something I enjoy. Like, so I actually toured one school for that up in Ohio, and was definitely like about to enroll in it. And then I was still working, by the way, this whole entire time through all of this, I was still working at Jet Coffee. Yeah. So I worked at Jet Coffee all this time. I started there like right at the very end of high school.
Okay.
So this was before I went to DAAP and everything. So I was still always working there part-time through everything.
And you're commuting to DAAP and okay, gotcha.
So right around that time, the timing just kind of worked out perfectly that they approached me, the previous owners of Jet, and kind of said, you know, our lease is up, we're kind of going to move on from this, and we have a couple people interested in buying the shop, but we wanted to reach out to you because we think that you would be the most obvious like fit for it, and we know that they specifically said, like, we know you're really young, so we almost feel like maybe we shouldn't be asking you because, you know, I don't know, but
well, again,
because it's kind of their, you know, it was their name too, they didn't want to just let it fall apart or anything, but they said you've always, you know, helped us out and stuff, because I had definitely learned a lot from them. They had me do a lot of managerial type of things, so I felt confident enough that I could handle it, and kind of just decided there was actually like a month of time that I had to decide and figure it out, and I kind of sat down and thought about the benefits of that versus, you know, continuing what I'm doing now, and I just kind of said I think I would be a lot happier than I am now, because I've always liked working there, and I kind of always thought, you know, if something came of this, that'd be cool, but I never really thought anything would. So
you purchased it from the previous owners, right? And was the kind of like, did you always want to keep it Jet Coffee? Is it
actually my plan was to like initially one of the first things I wanted to do was change the name and completely like rebrand it. And as I got into it, I realized that needed to be put on hold, because there was a lot of things I needed to do first. Just like, you know, just basic, like we needed to get our sales up, we needed to get like a better customer base. So I just kind of let it be in the background for a while and always kind of thought about it, and then kind of a year went by and I still hadn't done anything. And it's not that I think that Jet Coffee is a bad name or anything, it's just not maybe my ideal type of business and my aesthetic of things.
Sure.
But when I think about it, you know, I didn't start this business. I purchased it from someone else, and I'm kind of improving on it and making this one better.
Sure.
And instead of doing a whole brand change and everything, I kind of think of it as I could always do that in the future with something else. And this is, but I like the way it is. I've definitely made enough changes to where I do like it now, you know, changing the menu around and kind of adding my own thing, my own stamp on it. I think that's what I wanted to do, was like, I just wanted it to be more like mine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our story is very similar, right? So we purchased a gym from a group of people that were same kind of thing. They're like, we're ready to move on. We're not super passionate about this, and the name was CrossFit, and like, first thing we gotta do is change that name, you know. And so we did end up changing that, but again, it was the same thing where it took a really long time for us to put our touch to differentiate from what it was to where we are going now. You know, we were very fortunate to be able to move here into a nice building where we are now, and you know, it definitely took some time, but you don't want to alienate the people that were there, you know, that was that customer base, because if you just change it right away,
that was my fear. Like, I didn't want to. I know that people don't like change, so I didn't want to just right out of the gate start, because I had already changed the menu. I got like new employees and stuff, so I didn't want to change everything and people and then lose, because they did have a pretty good customer base already built up of regulars.
So when did you actually purchase that from them?
It was the beginning of June 2017.
Okay, so it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
As far as for you, right?
It's about a year and a half in now.
Okay, so
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to ask, what are some of the big things that you thought going into it versus changes that you've had to either have made or things you just completely didn't expect?
Well, one of the things is I had a lot of my family was telling me, like, you're going to have trouble with, keeping employees and that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh no, like, I'm not worried about the employee stuff at all. Like, they're going to listen to me. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Was it just you whenever you purchased the business?
Is it completely your money?
No, I inherited it. I inherited 3 employees, I think, and they were good girls. But it is a part-time job, so people move on, go to school or whatever, and so I had to start hiring my new people. And I've had a lot of like great employees, and none of them have been just like awful people or anything. But I did realize that me being young is a disadvantage in some ways, because the people I'm hiring are often about the same age or just slightly younger than me, or maybe sometimes slightly older. And I feel like I have to it's hard for me to kind of go into that boss role with people that are the same age. And I also had never had any experience being a manager anywhere. I was always just, a sales associate or at the lowest rank. So
you're thrust into
it was kind of a big wake-up call, like doing the scheduling and just managing multiple people was new for me. So it was something I definitely had to get used to.
It's a different skill for sure.
Yeah, you're thrust into a position where you're now the one in charge, and the only one in charge, and it makes things really, really difficult as far as like making those tough decisions and trying to appease people, trying to be the friend but also the hammer. And
what's really hard is that I'm the least, like, I can't do conflict.
Most people don't. Mark and I don't do confrontation very well.
Yeah, and I'm not a confrontational person.
Yeah, I don't think most people are, and those people who are usually pretty abrasive and don't do well in other positions that they may be put into,
I'm also horrible at making decisions, so that doesn't help either.
So when you inherited when you bought the business, I think that was one of the questions Mark asked. Was that like your money out of pocket? You purchased that from them? Take out a loan?
I was planning to just go take out a business loan, and I kind of mentioned my grandparents earlier, how they're good with money and everything. So I went and talked to them for advice, just because I think they've probably gotten loans before and stuff. I wanted to know, like, what should I go into it with, and what should I even expect. And they were actually like really, really generous enough to kind of offer me a loan, like via them, and it was because they thought that they thought it would be hard for me to get one. I didn't own anything, so
hard to have credit, and
right, just being that young. So I was very, very fortunate that they were able to do that. So it was kind of more so me just paying them versus paying
fantastic.
the bank.
It's a no interest loan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I did like kind of like a little presentation for them, because I wanted them to know that it was serious, and it wasn't just something I was going to start and quit immediately. Like, it was something I thought that I could handle. And
I think it's a great jumping off point for you, to where it's not a 2,000 square foot coffee shop. You can manage things a lot smaller when your overhead's lower and you've got this little spot. Personally, one of the reasons I love going to where you're at is I can literally drive up and drive away.
Right.
I think that was, it's called Jet Coffee for a reason, right? I saw, it was kind of like a meme the other day, and it was like, and there's some validity to it. I drink black coffee. There should be an express line for black coffee, and it's basically what I feel like I'm getting, and I love it. I love the fact that I can drive up, see, here you go, see you later, and it's so nice to be able to have that. What are some of the benefits and drawbacks of maybe a traditional coffee shop versus, and I guess for you guys who, if you're listening and you don't know where she's at, what we're talking about, for our millions and millions of listeners, it's basically a two-sided building where you drive up to a window, serve you coffee, and then you drive away. So it's not a go in, spend 3 hours on your laptop, taking up space. It's definitely a little bit different business model.
So I think when people think of going to get coffee or going to a coffee shop, it's more so is like that sit and talk and sip with your friends. But mine is definitely a on the go type of deal, and it's just, I think, different customers. I definitely get a lot of people who on their way to work. I think that's really my biggest customer base, comes from people on their way to work in the morning, because it's just something quick you can grab, people on their way home from work, on their lunch breaks. But I have a pretty wide customer base between, you know, young people versus people who are older. So I think we are reaching out to all types of different people. Even if they are someone who likes to sit down and sip on their coffee, we're a great option for when they just don't have time to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, so I would love to have a sit down place maybe in the future, but I think that what we're doing is it makes us different. So
yeah. And if you have a sit down place, you probably wouldn't be calling it Jet Coffee.
Right, it would be it's just a totally different business model. So I don't know if it would work for this spot, but maybe something I could think about in the future, because I myself like going to places like that, and I would, if that was the case, I would probably want to have both. I still like offering like the drive-through option for people who are, because it's what I know.
Yeah. Would you ever think about opening another drive-through location? Like, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of always the goal with places, is to expand physically, and I just, what I really want to do first is just be completely happy with what I currently have and make sure that it can run without me sometimes, because I still very much am very involved, and the employees there, they kind of, you know, they're kind of the face that the customer sees, and they do the serving, but there's a lot of stuff in the background that I'm still trying to work on and improve. So I want to get it just to a spot where I feel really confident in it before I start, you know, replicating it.
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of customers and people don't understand that, because they just say, you know, open one here, as if it's so easy.
Right.
And there's a lot. It's just not a smart decision at this point.
Oh, and
the equipment alone would be ridiculous.
It's very expensive.
Yeah,
Coffee
ridiculous.
equipment is actually like surprisingly expensive. Yes.
Yeah. We had a friend that was very much, and I'm pretty sure is still very into coffee, and we had some preliminary talks about, you know, doing some coffee on location here, and it's just like, you know, it's like you're $10,000 in before you know it, just on a coffee counter.
Right.
You know,
and then you're doing the math, like, all right, how many cups of coffee will we have to?
Exactly.
You know, and then what are the margins on you know, so it's not simple. You know, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we always thought it would go well with something like we do here, and it's but at the same time, it's you know, like you said, it's just such a expensive endeavor, and to only have this small of clientele, you know, it's like, okay, it's
kind of something you more have to be like all in on. And I've had a couple other people kind of bring that up, either wanting us to kind of be in their business or just looking for advice. Like they'll message me asking for advice, something they've been thinking about, they want to add it to their store, add it to their gym or whatever, and I kind of tell them the truth about, you know, what kind of stuff I have there, you know, because I'm physically small, but we have everything that like a normal coffee shop would have. We have all that equipment, it's just stuffed into a smaller space. And I kind of start going through, you know, this is about this much, this costs about this, and we're a higher volume shop. I mean, not all throughout the day, but I think we do more than like some people would expect, just because we get like that morning rush and stuff, even though we're such a small building, like we do. You're
not looking at you drive up to a Starbucks, for example, and the parking lot's filled because their lobby's filled. You don't have like a place to sit down, so you don't really see that business coming through there all the time. You know, but I've driven up and there's been 3 or 4 cars just in line, you know, waiting to get coffee. So that's always a good problem to have.
Yeah, definitely. But that, and you know, we're obviously not Starbucks or anything.
Right.
You know, we're not. It could be a lot better than it is currently, but it's different than, you know, if you guys in like a gym or something wanted to set it up, you have to think about the cost of everything versus how much you're actually going to sell. And if that's the case, I would say maybe just stick to like regular old coffee, you know, black coffee and stuff, because what really gets expensive is the fancy stuff, you know, your espresso machine and your espresso grinder and all that stuff. So if you just kind of stick to the basics, it's probably something that could be done.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, you know, having this different style of business, for me, whenever I have a decent amount of restrictions, that sometimes actually makes me work better than if someone just says, hey, have at this project, do whatever you want. So having this really small location, this really finite area to work with, has that made things harder, or maybe a little more made you think differently?
Honestly, kind of both.
Yeah.
It's hard in the way that I can't actually fit anything in there. Like, it's very stressful trying to keep up.
It's like a tiny house.
It is.
I mean,
it's very small, and I think I worry about that sometimes. I don't think we're there yet, but at some point we're going to outgrow that space if it continues, you know. And we just need, I only have room for one coffee brewer, you know. I've got 2 blenders. I have room for 1 espresso maker and or espresso machine, and just the littlest thing like is an issue because it takes up counter space that I don't have available. And I also have to store everything at my house, so I kind of go in, check what we need, and I bring it from there. But if I could just have like a stock room, it would make my life so much easier. And just little things like that is what makes it hard, but it's great in the fact that it's not that much to take care of, and you know, it's the overhead costs.
So I feel like your overhead has to be a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Which is nice as far as starting a new business.
Definitely. Yeah. Our rent is not bad, and it kind of makes me think, you know, how much would I really have to sell if like my rent was a lot, because it just kind of puts things into perspective, you know, how much everything really costs.
That's one of the things I think is really cool about where, you know, being young and not having a lot of experience. You know, we were again thrust into a role that we had no knowledge about. You know, we have grown a lot over the last 5 years as far as business owners. The same token, we have a really, really, really far way to go. And there's just stuff you don't know that you don't know. So it's nice, and honestly, in a way, to where you had this kind of low overhead, small location, and then you go, oh, okay, now I can build from here, instead of going, oh crap, I'm in a 2,000 square foot storefront. How am I going to cover my costs?
Right. Yeah, this is a great learning experience so anything I want to ever do after this, you know, I can take everything that I learned from here and apply it, and it'll definitely help. And hopefully I can just keep going with this and grow it. But I do think, you know, I kind of think about, if, you know, it doesn't work out, what will I do next? And that is scary, I think, for all entrepreneurs probably. But I just kind of have to remember that I'm learning so much just from doing this. So, you know, it's not a college degree, but it's a lot of experience that I can apply.
You just got an MBA, you know.
Exactly,
like,
that's how I try to think of it,
Because, I mean, you learn so much, like we mentioned before we went on, like about just like taxes and stuff like that. And I think there's so much that goes into a small business, like you said, that a lot of people don't see, and so much of it is self-education. You mentioned with the real estate license, you're like, yeah, I got the license, but that's when it kind of started. And that's for our profession with like training people. Whenever we got our certification, like that's when it started. And then we have to self-educate. And I think that's anyone in any role in life, whether it was even that Nestle role you had, like, oh, how do I learn, you know, more about what I need to do or what's next? And I think it's just people either have a knack for self-education and looking to get better, or they don't. Some people they like lose that at some point in their life, where it's just like, this is where I'm at, fine. You know, they get complacent. And you definitely strike me as someone that's not going to be complacent. So I have no doubt, like, whatever you're after, you can get to.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's goal is to, you know, work less, make more type of thing. So I'm kind of looking towards like an end goal. So I just want to keep going until I get to where I'm like satisfied with that. Yeah.
And you think it could be coffee, but it could be, who knows?
It could be, and that's one of the things I think a lot of people don't know is people ask me all the time, oh, like, did you get into this because you just love coffee? Do you like drink your coffee all day? And I do love coffee, but that's not why I got into it. I mean, it's part of the reason versus, at least I know something about that, versus like opening a gym, which I know nothing about.
You're not selling snow shovels for a living, you know.
Exactly.
You had some interest in it, but it's not.
Yeah, but kind of my whole, like my childhood and stuff, like thinking back, I was always kind of like a little entrepreneur. Like I was trying to come up with like this product when I was younger, with my grandfather, I remember. And then I would do like little lemonade stands at the end of the driveway all the time, just little things like that. Thinking back, it's funny now just to see what ended up happening, because maybe that's just kind of always what I've had. And I always thought like it would be cool to own like a cafe, Like, I kind of just always had that thought, never thought that it was something I would do, especially not this young. But just when the opportunity came, I was like, when will I ever have this opportunity again where I know enough going into it that I feel confident enough that I could, like, handle it?
To be honest with you, at relatively low risk.
Right, it is.
Going into it at your age where it's not like, I've got 3 kids to support, I'm going to go open a coffee shop.
That's what I thought. Like, if there's any good time to do it, it's now. You know, I'm not married. I'm not, like, it's just, no kids. I'm not in school. So I kind of thought, like, this is kind of the money that I would have put towards school, I'm putting towards this, which can appreciate and grow over time.
100%. And fortunately or unfortunately, when you're going to look back on this in 10 years and everyone's going to go, oh, you're so lucky. But at the same time, there's the same people going, you're crazy. Why are you not getting a college degree? Yeah.
I think you have to be a little bit crazy to be an 100%. Entrepreneur. I feel like you really do. And I'm a little crazy sometimes. Like, I definitely get really stressed out too. And I don't know. I think that we all kind of share some of the same qualities. You have to be a risk taker and...
Yeah. The stress that involved with this is very, very, very high. And you have to have outlets. I mean, that was very apparent for myself, the anxiety and stresses that go along with it, they start to surmount. And if you don't know how to deal with it, or you don't know that it's there, it can definitely rear an ugly head. And that personally happened for me. And really finding ways to where I need to take myself out of certain situations in order for me to be able to deal with the stress. But there's I'm sure you can attest to this. I know Mark's attest to this. Like, there's sleepless nights. There's
very many.
Like, there's times where I'm so tired, but I don't want to go to bed because I feel like I have so much more to do. Even today, like, we got a lot done, quote unquote, but at the same time, I'm not going to get a lot done. So there's to your point of getting it to a point to where you're not the one making all the decisions is going to be, that's our personal next goal.
Yeah, that's my personal goal as well. Trying to kind of get a manager or something going so that that can do kind of the little odd and end things that I have to worry about every day in addition to all the other stuff on top of it. And I feel like people don't realize, even though I'm not actually at the coffee shop working there every single day, I'm usually there, a few days a week, that I'm still working. Like, I'm not off. I'm at home working all day. It's really tough
because it's your baby. And you want to be the face of it, and you're relying on people to do that for you. And if someone's not doing their role, or they're putting a bad face on your company, it feels like a personal attack.
It's scary. It's scary to let someone else step in.
And I won't make you answer this. I'll answer it for you. The hardest part is not dealing with employees, but being a good leader for employees.
Yeah.
To lead by example, to show that, hey, even though I'm not here physically, like, I'm working my butt off to make this place a better place. And it's really tough because unfortunately you do get employees that will either take advantage of you or steal, and I'm not mean physically steal, but steal time, steal, if your employees do not feel that they're being properly compensated, they will steal. And again, whether that's product, whether that's time, whether that's the kind of energy you're putting out into your business. And unfortunately, it's really, really hard to find people that will back you wholeheartedly.
And then when you find a good one, you gotta, like, hold on to them.
You gotta hold on to them,
do what you can.
And you want to, but that's the cool thing is when you do find those people, you can then put them in those managerial roles and say, hey, I want you to be a part of this. Let's grow this together.
Yeah. And we are still, I consider us still like a startup. So that's what I want. I want my employees to kind of be in it with me. And there's so few of us that we are kind of, it's cool. And we're all, like, young girls, which I think is awesome. So we're kind of running the whole thing. And, not that I only hire girls, just want to put that out there, but just happens to be.
let's face it. I mean, it's not a, unfortunately, I'm getting to, like, gender roles, but it's not like a manly position.
Yeah, I just don't have that many guys apply. It's just,
what it is.
Yeah, it's a little coffee shop, and
I'd be chugging coffee. I would not be I'd not be in good shape if I was there.
Honestly, when I'm there, I don't really want it. People are always like, I bet you just stand in here and drink all day, and it's just so up in my face all the time.
It's kind of funny because that's what people think about us, like going to the gym, like, oh, I bet you guys just work out all day.
It's like, we're lucky, you know. I literally had someone in here yesterday. They were picking up one of our bikes, and she was a very avid exerciser, and they have a home gym, and that's one of the things I told her. I said, if you ever want to be inconsistent with your exercise, open a gym. You know, like, there's just certain days
drink much less coffee now than I used to.
It's funny, you know, I've worked at a restaurant in college, and it comes a point where I'm like, I can't eat here anymore. You kind of get sick of the same.
I always want it when I'm at home, though. But, like, when I'm just there and doing it, I'm just not in the mood. But then I'll get home, and I'm like, man, I wish I had something from my store. And I'm lucky to be able to go and do that. Like, I haven't been to Starbucks in, like, over a year.
That's
great.
Cool.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a lot of good stuff. You know, maybe just share maybe one goal or something for 2019. I know you kind of maybe beat around some of those, but what's kind of next?
What I'm trying to work on now is doing some cosmetic changes, mostly with like our menu and kind of the stuff on our windows and stuff, just trying to make it look nicer. The menu that we have right now, I created right before I bought it, so it was kind of a little bit in a rush, and I didn't have a ton of time to sit down and really think about it and play with it and play with the design. And I also made it myself, so I could, you know, consider reaching out to a graphic designer or something, because I just want to improve on it and improve on the display on our windows and stuff to kind of draw more people in.
I work for coffee. If you need help.
Oh yeah.
Designer right there.
No, really. So I'm trying, and I also kind of want to change some of the things that we have, and you know, now that I've been doing it, I know the drinks that are popular and the drinks I can probably take off, and I just want to kind of update it. And I also am trying to think about, you know, how can we get people through there faster, because we're supposed to be, you know, on the go, so we're supposed to be fast. So I'm always thinking of little things that we can change to make that happen, and I think part of that is going to be making a different menu that's visually
is it
different.
Like a simple, like simpler menu?
I would like to simplify it. I definitely want to simplify it. That way people look at it and you kind of, I just have a lot of options right now, and I still want to offer those, but maybe, you know, people can order off menu if they want, but it doesn't necessarily have to be cluttering up this whole thing, because we're being small, we really don't have that much space, so we kind of have to work with what we have. If I can downsize some things,
one thing off your counter. Oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just don't have the space for some of the stuff that we currently have.
Two things. Whose idea was jet fuel?
Was that was not mine. No, that was not there. Is that your favorite?
No, Chris gets it all the time. That's I already have enough trouble sleeping, so most that's really coffee I drink, but that is intense.
What's funny is, like, that's the number one drink I'm trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
And we can still make it. Like, it's basically you just get, like, 6 shots. So just ask for 6 shots and whatever you want, and that's
intense.
fine.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until Chris told me.
I mean, I took a sip of it, and it was really good, but it was like I couldn't function after having
and
that.
A lot of people get it. It's one of the more popular drinks, but it kind of goes back to us trying to be fast. That drink takes us a while to make. Yeah. It takes us longer than everything else. But
and then two, this may be a little bit of a future question, but I mean, I think I don't know if you have online ordering, like that could be where, because I think one hard thing is you get someone who goes in and they get 4 drinks. Well, if you're making 4 drinks, there's one person there. It's almost like if you can go in, hey, order half hour ahead of time.
Exactly. That's definitely something I've thought about and want to eventually have in place. The issue with it at the moment is, as you know, we usually only have one person working at a time. So just trying to get that communication, somehow set that up to where they know, oh, there's an online order in, and they can start working on it. So it's just kind of like the logistics of it, trying to figure that out. And at some point, hopefully we can have more than one person, and it's really just the physical space. And you're kind of just bumping into each other.
Each other. They're not like at each other's throats.
Right.
There
Yeah.
8
Hopefully.
Highly caffeinated.
Yeah.
I think I asked you the one day. I was like, how do you guys go to the bathroom?
Yeah, we don't have a bathroom because we can't fit one, so we just have, there are surrounding businesses, and we just have kind of an agreement with one of those.
That's nice, because that's one where we're like, hey, here's a free cup of coffee.
They come over and get our coffee, and we do what we got to do.
That's very nice, because that's obviously one where you're like, man.
A lot of people ask that. Someone just asked that today. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be my biggest thing. Every time I drink coffee, I'm like, I gotta pee.
It's not super pleasant to have to walk outside, to have to go to the bathroom. You know, it's like snowing or raining or whatever.
Small business problems.
No big deal.
Right, small business problems. Well, cool. We always like to kind of finish things out. It's just a very basic question, but they've always been different answers, and you're, again, being on the entrepreneurship side of things, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. It's just a very simple question of what is your definition of success?
Really just being happy. That's my end goal, is just to be happy in whatever I'm doing. It's making money is important, but I just want to be like stable, and I feel like that's maybe comes down to, like, again, with my parents, and my childhood was, it wasn't like, you know, the worst or anything, and I was a fairly happy kid, but it was unstable, and I just crave that in my adult life, I think. So I just want to get to a place where I'm happy and you know, just
stable.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to have to, I'm just such a worrier at all times. I just want to get to a place where I can not worry so much.
Very cool. What where do people find you? So if you guys are familiar with the area, it is what's all in that parking lot? What do you tell people, I guess?
So it's right on 42 in Florence, near Mall Road, but it's not on Mall Road, it's near it, but it's right in front of Little Caesars. There's an Edible Arrangements there, and a big yellow CarX. It's right next to that.
Yep.
And it's just a little drive-through right in the parking lot.
And you guys are on Instagram now, right?
Yeah, we have a new Instagram.
Yeah.
It's Jet Coffee Florence, and then we've been on Facebook for a little while. So if you just search, I think it's Jet Coffee Drive-Thru is what we're on Facebook. And then I have a website. It's kind of, you know, just something basic that I made, and so we've got some info.
What's the website?
I think it's jetcoffeeflorence.com. It kind of just, you know, it's a quick overview of you can see our menu, our hours, our links and stuff there if you're interested.
We got some cards in the
we got cards in the lobby for you guys if you're listening and haven't tried it out yet. Again, it's one of our favorite places to go because we are usually short on time going somewhere. So
and you're right down the road.
Right down the road, and we drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I need to get you guys a new menu. I saw the menu down there that you have because our hours changed. So we're open 6 to 6 now.
There you go. Open 6 a.m. All the people, the 5:30 a.m. class, boom, get your coffee. You can hop right on the highway. It's really nice, actually. Well, thank you again so much for coming on and telling your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, check Courtney out over at Jet Coffee right off 42. And thank you all for listening to Triumph Every Day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and everywhere your favorite podcasts are found. You can find us at triumphstrength.net, on Instagram at triumphstrength, and Facebook at facebook.com/triumphstrength. Thanks again.